In the previous episodes,
After 150 years of travel, 3-generation ships from Earth finally reached Elpida, a habitable planet orbiting the star Ross 128. People landed, set up a base, and began to explore a world that seemed almost welcoming. In the violet, luminescent jungles, they discovered artificial structures. Because of their abandoned look, they were named the Ruins. Almost immediately afterward, an epidemic broke out, an aggressive, unpredictable virus. With the help of the AI Astra, a vaccine was developed from local life forms. It saved more than 97% of the colony. Some people had already fallen ill before vaccination, some even without symptoms. Admiral Rachel Lee refused treatment and vanished. Her bracelet was found at the entrance to the ruins. Some of those who had survived the illness began to change, behaviorally and possibly cognitively. People started calling them the Others. Many feared and shunned them. Conflicts started to break out. Despite Rachel's earlier objections, Eliza Healy sent a full report back to Earth. The reply came just 10 seconds later, as if Earth were right next door, not 11 light years away. At that very moment, a sudden burst of activity was detected at the ruins, and, as if on command, the Others silently, synchronously abandoned their sectors and walked into the forest, toward the central structure. 7th month on Elpida. A week has passed since the Others silently retreated into the forest, dissolving into the violet thickets. The base has fallen quiet, but it isn't peace. It's more like waiting. Some breathe a sigh of relief after their departure. Others fear their return. Many fear they won't come back alone. Eliza notes in her report there is no contact with those who left. No autonomous trackers were placed on them, and their departure was both spontaneous and synchronous. Drones managed to trace only the first few miles. Beyond that, the interference from the ruins blocked everything. A search and rescue operation is out of question, but Eliza can't forgive herself for doing nothing.
A week without contact. These are our people. We have to do something.
I'm ready to hear a plan that at least won't get Miss killed.
While the base recovers, Eliza files a report to command about her decision to transmit a signal to Earth, and about the terrifyingly instantaneous reply. That reply violated every known law of physics, so an investigation was conducted. It confirmed the header and signature format were correct, Earth standard, but the content could not be decoded, and its source was definitely not Earth. It was coming from somewhere nearby. The exact location couldn't be determined. A second signal was needed for triangulation. The working group decides that sending a second signal is far too risky. Command orders the matter classified. The channel was deemed compromised until the situation is fully resolved. The executive officer issues the strictest ban on any further attempts to contact Earth. Violation would result in a tribunal. Weeks pass with no incidents. The Earth channels remain shut down. It seemed as if everything had calmed down, but it was only the calm before the storm. 8th month. The ships in orbit recorded a slight global deviation in the planet's radiation background. Then came a faint ripple across radio frequencies, ones not connected to the ruins. The pattern repeated, and the amplitude grew. The source of the anomaly was quickly identified, and it was not on the planet. The source was the planet's parent star, and that was the worst news the expedition had received in all 150 years of its journey. Worse than the strange signal, worse than the Others, worse than the virus and every mystery of Elpida combined. Orbital reconnaissance registered signs of an impending superflare on Elpida's star. The AI Astra ran an immediate simulation, and the results triggered a red code, a lethal threat.
Strong flares are normal for red dwarfs. but each one unleashes radiation that wipes out nearly all life. From day one, I didn't understand how such a dense forest could even grow here.
And?
And it can't. It all adds up now. Soon it'll be gone. And so will we. No one lasts more than a week after that dose of radiation.
We'll report to the Admiral's executive officer in Eversing. We need to evacuate everyone to the ships.
We won't get everyone off in time. But we could not fly. But just go away.
Are you thinking the same thing I am?
This news hit everybody hard. No one knew if the planet would remain habitable after the coming cataclysm. What would be the point of this whole mission then? But everyone understood one thing. There was no point in sitting still and waiting for death. Sunlight had turned from a blessing into a mortal threat, and so salvation had to be sought in what had always been avoided, the darkness. On Elpida's dark side, this planet always faces its star with only one hemisphere. On that side, there is eternal day. On the other, eternal night. Until now, the dark side existed only on maps, a frozen wasteland, unfavorable for life. But when Astra confirmed the coming flare, the truth became clear. There was no choice. Everyone had to move. On the dark side, the planet itself would shield the colonists from its raging star. According to the Orbital Observatory's calculations, there were 3 days until the flare. In that time, people and the most essential supplies had to be moved to the safe latitude on the night side. After that, they would only have to hide away, wait, and hope. 3 days until the flare. Day 1. The technicians leave first. Their task is to set up initial shelters and provide at least minimal conditions for the displaced. They were sent forward without families and without extra cargo, only tools, inflatable modules, generators, and beacon kits to mark the route. The column departs, a walking team of 20. They travel on foot to personally ensure the route will be passable for the rest. Shuttles and rovers can't possibly move thousands of people in 3 days. 2 all-terrain vehicles with crews accompany them. Rolls of thermal fabric, collapsible supports, canisters, crates of beacons, and reflective marker tape are on board. Recon drones fly ahead at 300 feet, automatically taking a terrain snapshot every 1,000 feet and updating the map. At key points, they installed tripods with radio beacons. Tomorrow, everyone else will follow them. 2 days until the flare. On the second day, movement becomes continuous, like a river. Walking groups, trucks and rovers for the elderly, and those with limited mobility. Departures run on schedule every 40 minutes. A walking group, trucks, and a mobile medical unit head out. The priority order is clear. Women and children first, then critical equipment, then everyone else. There's a quick gear check, verification of beacon bracelets, and tags on backpacks at the start. No one was to be lost in the violet jungles. 1 day until the flare. The columns march into darkness. The landscape shifts slowly, yet inexorably. The star hangs low, dragging out long, flickering shadows. Any moment now, it will slip below the edge. The light grows dimmer. The air is drier, colder. A thin frost begins to crust the ground. Then, a sparse, dry snow starts to fall, not clumping, but cascading in tiny grains, crunching softly under boots. Engines hum in a more muffled way. Footsteps merge into a single rhythm. People walk closer together, as if trying not to lose warmth and sound. The horizon darkens ahead, and each step seems to echo louder. Suddenly, the temperature plunges. Elpida's dark side greets the columns with flat, motionless silence. On the bright side remain those shutting down the base. Watch posts, power crews, doctors. Then, they too hurriedly leave it. Only the few who could not be persuaded stay behind. By the evening of the third day, the en route lists almost match the arrived lists. Eliza still keeps open the file with blank lines, the ones who walked into the forest. From them, still nothing but silence. The lists of resettlers have gaps not only from the others. An elderly couple, Catherine and Martin, refused to leave. They said they'd already lived too long in the hollow darkness of space, and here, at last, they'd found the home they'd always dreamed of. David and Eliza pleaded, offering seats on the shuttle. But the old couple signed a waiver. David keeps his eyes on the sky. Orbital scouts confirm the forecast. Time of impact, unchanged. 3 minutes to the flare. A message in a short package comes through. Flare confirmed. First radiation front in 3 minutes. Suddenly, everyone feels a brief underground jolt. Not like an earthquake, more like some giant switch that had been flipped inside the planet itself. Almost simultaneously, orbital sensors register a surge of electromagnetic activity in the region of the central structure. Then, similar surges erupt in other regions, places where no ground missions had yet been deployed. On the dark side, people instinctively press closer to shelters, even though there's no direct threat here. The instinct to hide was too strong to fight. The edge of the sky flares with ionized light. In stunned silence, people watch the glow, wordlessly bidding farewell to those left on the day side.
It's begun.
Catherine, Martin, how come?
We spent our whole lives dreaming of a new home. We waited an eternity to see a real sun, and now we have. Even if it turned out to be so cruel.
Forgive us for not being able to convince you.
Seconds and minutes stretch on. The sky burns with auroral fire, but the emergency channels remain silent. The first graphs appear on the master display. Dosimeters on the day side are reading at the lower edge of the projected range. Not zero, but nothing like they'd prepared for. A repeat check confirms radiation background is abnormally low. Infrastructure is intact. Biosphere in test zones is showing no critical damage. In fact, no damage at all. As if nothing were happening. The command block is silent. No one understands. Everybody waits tensely for the orbital scout's report. The orbit relays a brief conclusion. The planet's magnetic field strength has tripled out of the blue. This protective shield had absorbed the first blow of the flare. It deflected the deadly stream of particles, sweeping them away from the planet. Something about this picture was too perfect. Confirmed flare, auroras, underground shock, low background radiation, ruins coming alive. The puzzle begins to take shape.
As if the planet
Saved itself.
Not just the planet.
Rachel, you're alive. We were freaking out.
Where are you? We'll send a shuttle for you right now.
Belay that. Listen up. Not just the planet. Us too. That's what this was all about. That's why we came here. I found the answers. You've already realized what the ruins really are, haven't you?
I think I do now.
Rachel speaks calmly, briefly, like at a pre-launch briefing. Only now, every word lands on what they've already seen. Everything simply makes sense. What the colonists called the ruins were in fact nodes of the planetary defense system. They didn't preserve memories of the past, as people once thought. They served as guardians of the present. They generated the magnetic field ahead of each dangerous flare. And where was the energy coming from? Presumably from the planet's molten core.
And the beacon signal, so it wasn't an invitation, it was...
A distress call.
Almost. It was a plea for help.
The planetary defense system had been designed by unknown creators to run for centuries without supervision. Rachel calls the creators themselves the architects. The nodes of this unfathomably vast machine backed each other up, drew power from the core, while the beacon rested in orbit. This system was the planet's shield, built by an ancient civilization against the rare but devastating flares of their star. The system could sense danger in advance, from faint background fluctuations, from dark spots on the star, from the strength of the solar wind. But like any machine, it needed maintenance, and for thousands of years, it had none, as though the architects had forgotten the planet, or simply abandoned it. When danger came again, the system no longer had the strength to act alone. It needed new hands, new eyes, operators who could help steer the planet safely from the storm. That was why the beacon sent its call, a desperate plea for help. The planet was calling for new operators, and that was the signal humanity had heard centuries ago.
As for the epidemic, I think you already understand that it wasn't exactly a disease.
Put a firmware. An update.
Correct. Extraordinary abilities were needed to operate an extraordinary mechanism. Every death from the virus is my personal tragedy. But those sacrifices were not in vain.
The immense technical complex of planetary defense contained elements of synthetic biology. The machine was a living organism. It was artificially created, but undeniably alive. And though the system functioned autonomously, it also required someone alive for fine-tuning. Those who were covered have gained new sensory abilities. They had an astonishing side effect as a bonus. They began to see emotions, literally, as if subtle waves of light shimmered through the bodies of others, like water ripples. Fear had a cold, trembling pattern. Tenderness, a soft golden glow. Sadness, quiet blue threads flowing downward. And this wasn't just seen by a single person, but by everyone who had changed. They no longer needed words to understand each other. A single glance was enough. But the most astonishing discovery was something else. They saw similar patterns in other living beings, in Elpidian plants and in terrestrial animals. The forest was no longer silent. It breathed, responded, and embraced them with a quiet harmony. And in that, there was nothing alien, nothing frightening about that.
And those you called the others.
Are the new operators.
Yes. We're the ones who activated the planetary defense.
And you were something like a navigator, the most other among the others, so...
Come back. We're coming back too. It's over.
While everyone is counting heads and preparing to return to the light side, for the first time in a long while, people's mood turns almost light. They've survived the storm. Readings are steady. Communications are stable. The columns head back along the same route. The glow from the light side remains just as bright enough now to illuminate the endless white plain. People noticed a strange, barely perceptible symmetry in the landscape. Parallel faint lines in the snow in the lowlands, evenly spaced intervals, repeating angles, stretching for miles and miles ahead, all the way to the dark horizon.
Looks like some kind of quarry. Marble quarries on Earth looked a bit like this.
At first, it seems like nothing more than a play of light and shadow, but line after line forms a pattern. One far too precise to be accidental. The column slows. The nearest group, Healy, Grass, and 2 technicians, veers off the route and drives a rover out to investigate this strange structure. They find the first geometrically perfect object with right angles. The contours of another emerge beside it through the snow, and another, and another. Thousands at the very least. Layer by layer, they clear away hardened snow and frozen grit. Beneath it lies a slab, flat as a table, with a barely visible, hair-thin seam. They don't dare try to open it. Instead, they bring in equipment, scanning from different angles until the image slowly begins to appear. What the screens reveal leaves everyone in shock. A figure slowly emerges on the screen, as if a developing photograph. A vague but recognizable silhouette. Shoulder arches, rib lines, bent knees, a peaceful pose, face turned upward, hands folded across the chest. Remains of humanoid beings in capsules that look suspiciously like...
This isn't a quarry.
It's a graveyard.